black girl like you talking back? Lieutenant Seth Morin snarled, then smashed his baton into a 17-year-old's skull. No warrant, no cause, only color. He didn't know she was state valedictorian, daughter of a former internal affairs investigator. The same man had once exposed Mio's dirty squad. The instant her surname, Lauren, was spoken, the whole precinct scattered like roaches under light. If your child were beaten into coma for being black, would you whisper or torch the silence? The last bell rang through Roosevelt High, ricocheting off dented lockers like a countdown to daylight. Hallways surged with chatter, screens glowing, earbuds buzzing, doors clapping shut. Then everything paused like the building held its breath. Jada Morgan stepped from class, arms crossed, hoodie zipped to her collarbone. She'd barely gone 10 feet when a bark snapped behind her. Hood off now. Officer Niles Moreau, broad-shouldered, jaw wired, eyes verdict ready, already hated her answer. I'm not trying to start anything, Jada said. It's a tank underneath. I'm uncomfortable. That's an order, Moreau cut in, closing distance. Non-compliance. She gripped the hem. Dress code allows it. Lockers rattled as he slammed her back. Gasps rippled. Phones rose. Hands behind your back, he growled. Please, wait, she wheezed, cheek grinding concrete. He yanked her arms, cuffs biting skin. She didn't resist. She didn't move. He swung anyway. He stepped back, drew the baton. Don't! Someone began. Too late. Crack. Wood met ribs. Jada folded, knees buckling, head smacking tile. Blood spread, a dark mirror around her temple. Screams spiked. She's bleeding! Get help! Moreau didn't blink. He crouched beside her, whispering like venom. Just like your mother, mouthy, useless. Officer Halpert watched, arms folded, face stone. No intervention. No alarm. Then a shriek. She isn't breathing! Pandemonium bloomed. Students sprinted or filmed with trembling hands. Overhead, a camera blinked once, then died. No red light, no recording. Footsteps thundered. A woman's command slashed air. Phones, hand them over. Screens were seized mid-record, swallowed without explanation. Across town, Lauren Morgan scrubbed courthouse tile, cleanser stinging cracked knuckles. Her phone buzzed. County General. Ma'am, your daughter isn't responding. The rag dropped. The world narrowed to a corridor of fluorescent light and a single, unending sentence. It echoed as she entered ICU. Your daughter isn't responding. Machines hummed their artificial calm. Jada lay motionless, eyes shut, tubes like plastic vines. Around her wrist, deep red grooves. Cuffs, not protective restraints. A sentence carved into skin. Outside, gears already spun. Police called it the containment of an aggressive student showing distress. Non-compliant, necessary force. Bolded twice, potential threat. The school emailed staff-only instructions. No commentary, no non-curricular messages. Discipline for breaches. A polished muzzle. By morning, headlines cemented their fiction, a containment response to a teen showing aggression. Air quotes floated over injured and brutality. Missing, the baton, the blood. Accountability didn't appear once. Efficiency did, cold and practiced. The staff memo landed like duct tape. Do not comment. Share no non-curricular communications about the Roosevelt incident. Disciplinary review for breaches. Clinical tone. Weaponized silence. The story sprouted roots overnight, fed by euphemism. A nurse, young and shaken, hesitated when Lauren demanded answers. You're her mother. I want to tell you, but I'm not allowed to speak to any third party. Third party. That's what they'd reduced her to. Machines beeped steadily. Jada didn't stir. Halpert issued nothing. Moreau vanished from screens. Documents surfaced, memos varnished with codes. Jada labeled subject, volatile behavior in public setting, preloaded guilt into an unconscious body. That evening, Lauren watched the monitor's numbers rise and fall. Nurses moved like shadows. No visitors, no flowers, only her. Silence had weight now. It pressed against the walls and refused to leave. A teacher, mid-40s, familiar from conference nights, passed Lauren, circled back, and slipped a folded note into her palm. No words. Under the fluorescent buzz, she unfolded. Main hallway cam cut. Backup digital running. Third floor, east wing. Moreau wasn't hiding, not suspended, not reviewed. A closed-door board logged commendation, internal praise for exemplary handling of high-risk escalation. A discretionary resilience stipend hit his account, silent merit for nearly killing a girl. In the room, Lauren opened the official statement, manila envelope stamped business. She read one line, force applied in response to perceived threat. Not intent to harm. Intent, the loophole. Erase outcome. Declare process. Absolve violence. No officials came, no counselors, no apology, explanation, or courage. Only Lauren, the buzz of machines, and a daughter breathing mechanically. Fingers curled like she clung to something invisible, still resisting in sleep. Outside, the system purred. No protests, interviews, or firestorm, just precision silence, rolled tight like crime scene tape across every institution tasked with protecting her. Orchestrated neglect made into policy. Lauren didn't cry. 12 hours, stone-faced, eyes razor-sharp. A single thread of blood crept beneath the gauze, threatening the bandage. She didn't look away. Not once. The room became a shrine to intent. A young doctor hovered. Have you considered legal action? Neutral voice, careful wording. Lauren's reply was plain. I'm alive and I've still got both hands. She asked for sterile cloth, dabbed dried blood from Jada's throat, then pocketed the pad. She opened voice memos. Morning, 14th. Jada's voice. Light, teasing. Physics test tomorrow. Don't forget the banana, Mom. Potassium fuels genius. Lauren listened twice, pocketed the phone, and left the room without a word. Halpert smiled for cameras, repeating standard protocol and appropriate action. Lauren didn't argue. She moved, down hospital corridors to security. Appointment? I'm a mother. I'm not here for comfort. They let her through. Under flickering lights, she filed a formal complaint by hand. Nature of grievance. Blood pattern shaped like a cuff. Punishment inflicted on a 16-year-old child. No metaphors, no begging, just scalpel-sharp fact. Her phone held no apologies, only the soft click of a recording starting. She labeled a page, slid it into a clear sleeve. Private evidence log. L. Morgan. Precision was protection. Rage had cooled into steel. She walked out. Meanwhile, in a lecture hall, Halpert preened for interviews, murmuring about policy. Lauren didn't counter. She collected. Steps mapped corridors she'd once cleaned. Doors opened because persistence sounded like authority. County General's security wing rarely saw unescorted visitors. Lauren didn't ask. She sat at a metal desk and wrote. Block letters, blade sharp. No theatrics. Just dates, times, names, the architecture of consequence. That night at her kitchen table, she clipped a headline. Police acted professionally during school incident. She glued it to her laptop's back and scrawled over it in red Sharpie. You'll relearn everything, from her mother. Before sunrise, she returned. Jada hadn't moved. Stats steady. A young nurse watched as Lauren logged dosages and rotations in a leather notebook. You don't need to talk, the nurse said softly. Standing up is enough. Lauren didn't smile. Something sharpened behind her eyes. She was building, not from grief, from design. Every step measured, every action a stone placed. Systems can't predict what they refuse to imagine. She walked into Roosevelt like any visitor, but the air stiffened around the front desk. The hall's wax gleamed, trying to forget. Memory refused. It breathed through the grout and hummed under fluorescent light. She stood where Jada fell, tiles sterile, but trauma stains beyond pigment. She scanned, patient as a forensic lamp, near the locker base, reddish shadow in the grout. Scrubbed, faded, not gone, memory's fingerprint. Under a stone bench, her fingers touched orange cotton, a torn hoodie thread, missed by cleanup. Pocketed. A janitor changed direction without a word. Fear speaks louder than denial. She let it. Footsteps, heavy and theatrical. Moreau, he slowed, savoring. Hope your daughter pulls through. For your sake. Pain's better when it lingers. Lauren's face was marble. I still have something I never gave you, she said. My memory. He smirked and moved. Lauren sat on Jada's bench, measured 22, maybe 25 feet to the camera dome. Notebook, line of sight to east, cam unobstructed. She paced, fingertips reading bumps in cinder block. Hip height, a gouge arced in the paint, splinters flared. Not random, metal dragged with force. No student carries a baton. Click. Jada's old camera woke. Lauren photographed baseboard to tile. Dried blood, curling like a letter. The stain looked like a J. But letters don't bleed. People do. Dried blood remembers. So did she. That night she didn't return to the hospital. There was older work to unearth, colder and deliberate. From beneath floorboards, she lifted a locked box, rusted clasp, complaining. Papers unfolded, yellowed records the system hoped she'd lose. She hadn't. She typed, Moreau, public records. She hunted patterns, not headlines. Officer Niles Moreau, 4 internal incidents over 9 years. All flagged, none prosecuted. Black minors every time, dismissed for insufficient evidence, redactions, smothered names. The pattern shouted anyway. A 2016 file, aggressive restraint of juvenile suspect. Note, subject exhibited hostility, force necessary. Another, 2012, verbal altercation escalated to baton containment. The phrase non-cooperative behavior repeated like a cheat code. She froze at 2009, a handwritten report, signature clear. Officer N. Moreau, female suspect, non-compliant, uncooperative. Monday. Central Transit. Lauren remembered. Waiting for medicine money. 2 plainclothes approached. Profile fit. Shove. Jada. 4. Screamed. Next day's tabloid scan. Woman yelling, I don't have anything. Tackled at station. Faces blurred, but she knew her own arm reaching back toward her child. 1 underline. 1 thick crossout. Her caption replaced theirs. She wrote, a cop crushed my windpipe while my daughter watched. In archival city footage, a woman dragged across linoleum. Palms scraping, body limp but resisting. She recognized the timestamp before the angle. Hers. She burned copies, sent 3 encrypted packages. Civil Rights Archive, Watchdog Group, Investigative Reporter. No signature, no trace. Then a torn photo. Her falling. The man pushing. His badge. His smirk. Not Morin. His father. On the back she wrote, some uniforms raise children. Others breed legacies. She pinned it beside Jada's hospital forms, the hallway gouge, and the tile blood. This was never one officer. It was inheritance. She started with a name. Moreau. In the request portal, she searched patterns. discipline reports, body cam lapses, camera outages. She filtered for minors, schools, transit hubs. Not headlines, habits. Predators repeat. Institutions archive repetition as procedure. There he was, Officer Niles Moreau. 4 internal incident files across 9 years, all flagged, none prosecuted. Every complainant, a black minor. Each dismissal stamped, insufficient evidence. The pattern whispered louder than redactions could smother. A 2016 memo, aggressive restraint of juvenile. Note, subject exhibited hostility. Force necessary. A 2012 entry, verbal altercation escalated to baton containment. The chorus returned like a rigged refrain, non-cooperative behavior, bureaucracy's favorite mask for pain. Then a 2009 handwritten sheet, ink smudged, signature clear, in Moreau. Female suspect, non-compliant, uncooperative. Monday, Central Transit. Lauren remembered the linoleum burn, her child screaming, the 2 plainclothes laughing like gravity had joined their squad. A tabloid clipping. Woman shouts, "I don't have anything," tackled at station. Faces blurred, posture undeniable. Her arm reaching toward her little girl. She underlined once, crossed their headline out, wrote truth beneath like a corrective incision. She captioned it, "A cop collapsed my airway while my daughter watched." Archive footage showed a woman dragged, palms skidding, lungs clawing for mercy. She recognized the timestamp before her own silhouette, memory confirming evidence, evidence validating memory. She burned 3 encrypted copies, sent them to a civil rights archive, a watchdog newsroom, a reporter who answered 2 a.m. emails. No signatures, no trace. Then a half-torn photo, her falling. The man pushing. Same ring, same smirk. She flipped the photo, wrote, "Some uniforms raise children, others breed legacies." Pinned it beside Jada's intake chart, the wall gouge, the tile curl of blood. This wasn't a man's temper. It was a family business model. But photographs don't win courtrooms. Paper trails do. She opened her civil file. Receipts, citations, discarded summons like husks. The municipal portal listed nothing for April 10, 2009. Not misfiled. Erased. Silence louder than any admission. She drove to the city's criminal archive with statute pages ready. "Originals stored off digital," she told the clerk. 25-year retention. 22 minutes later, a box, 6 folders, 1 label. Mercer L. The booking form was faded. Intact. Arresting Officer Field. Sergeant Donald Moreau. Above, a grainy hallway photo. Her face pressed to tile, shoulder wrenching backward, a man's palm pinning her neck. On his finger, a snarling dog's head ring. She wrote on the back, "The cop who crushed me sired the cop who crushed my child." The incident transcript called her a suspect. Rationale, loitering in a known distribution zone. Poverty translated into probable cause. Observation, cursive neatness. Subject resisted containment through vocal protest. She circled it. Crying equals resistance, how bureaucracies domesticate terror. Dispatch timelines stuttered. Camera logs blacked out exactly when she remembered being dragged. 3:12 p.m., restroom entry. 3:29 p.m., subject in custody. Internal cameras, dead from 3:13 to 3:30. 17 missing minutes, the length of a ritual. Doors slammed, her child screaming. Nobody wrote that part down. Station nurse report claimed right-hand hematoma from stairwell fall during pursuit. There'd been no stairs, no pursuit, only cuffs. She flipped the page. I was restrained, not running. Gravity didn't strike me. Men did. Supervising signature, Latier William Harvick. Now head of the district's SRO pipeline, the man overseeing police in schools. She pressed pen to paper. He watched them do it to me. Now he trains them to do it to kids. The file didn't reopen wounds. It labeled them. She closed the folder, steadied her breath. They think poor people misplace memory, she whispered. I file mine. The rain outside agreed. Drumming like a stamp, she left with copies, their weight deceitfully light. Some truths weigh nothing until spoken aloud. Then they crush buildings. She stepped into the cold, each exhale a contract with consequence. That evening, she chose a place without cameras, a tea shop with fogged windows, chipped bell, 4 chairs. She didn't summon, she asked. 3 students came, no parents, no lawyers, just backpacks and shaking courage. The first, a wiry 17-year-old, kept his coat on, eyes darting like practiced invisibility. I remember the station, he whispered. I was 5. You weren't angry, you were scared. I thought you were my mom. She nodded once. The second, a girl, hoodie strings strangled in her hands, said, Jada didn't scream. Everybody says she fought, but she didn't. She only said, my mom won't leave me. That's all. Silence landed like a vow. Do you want to be remembered for what you said, or staying quiet? Lauren asked. They both nodded. The third, youngest, slid a smartwatch across the table. Don't tap, he warned. Just listen. She tapped once anyway. 3 hard cracks. A pleading, stop! Then Moreau's voice, clinical, unhurried. Trying the same tear trick your mama pulled? Her stomach turned to gravel. She wrote the quote in block letters and sealed it in a sleeve. The boy handed her a drawing. Crayon red pooled around a fallen girl. A shade taller man raising a stick. Not a statement. A scar. She filed it. Children not allowed to remember. Evidence is sometimes made of crayons. Night became strategy. At 2:14 a.m., she sent an unsigned email, internal SRO misconduct reports, 5 years, with a nudge toward pages worth losing sleep over. Not a leak, she typed. An opening salvo. 3 journalists received the package. 2 national, 1 independent whistleblower site. Encrypted drives sprang awake. 1 clip labeled Hallway Restore. Final EP4 glowed like a fuse. Under 2 minutes, enough to detonate a city's favorite denial. Moreau entered frame like a wolf in a nursery. Jada centered, hoodie zipped, hands low. 1 shove, 3 baton strikes, skull to tile. Students yanked, slammed. Halpert watched. Feed cut, but only publicly. Lauren had the uncut backup. She'd tracked a forgotten 2007 server through a ghosted login, Langston Eat, left alive, abandoned. Not erased, merely neglected. Bureaucracies starve their own memory. Survivors feed it. By noon, the clip rewired the country's pulse. Hashtag Jeffrey Justice. For Jada erupted by 3. Lauren didn't log in. She printed the first article and nailed it to Roosevelt's front board beside. We keep our community safe. 4 steel tacks, paper speaking louder than press conferences. That afternoon, 3 brown envelopes landed at 3 newsrooms. Inside, torn orange fleece marked dark, brittle. Jada's. Each scrap carried a handwritten line. This is how a conscience bleeds. Photographs persuade, fibers convict. Moreau dialed blocked. Static, then a threat. Think you're clever? Ghosts burn. Lauren set her phone to speaker, mid-guest lecture at the law school. 30 students heard him rehearse cowardice. That, she said, is the sound of a badge without backbone. Networks begged for exclusives. Vigilante? A producer wrote. Modern ghost? She answered once. I'm not here to talk. They're here to listen. The story traveled without her voice because memory had learned to walk. One outlet received a single file, A 2009 arrest photo. Woman bloodied, one eye swollen, name blacked. Caption, she doesn't need to be known, only remembered. They ran it. The city reread its reflection. She never posted the clip, never claimed the leak. Students did the distribution. Through group chats, cracked screens, whispered airdrops. They didn't do it for her. They did it because they recognized themselves in the silence. Monday, the school turned into a reckoning. Portraits of Jada, charcoal, pencil, marker, papered the entry corridor. Some smiling, others bleeding. Under each, she bled. We watched. Teachers closed doors. Doors couldn't muffle a gallery. Orange hoodies, white armbands, orange for Jada, white for the silence they'd carried. At 10:17 a.m., 200 students dropped to the floor. 3 minutes, the length of his 3 strikes. Quiet, choreographed consequence. Halpert appeared 5 minutes in. Students rose as he approached, then stepped apart, opening a path not for respect, but removal. A corridor parting to make his isolation visible. He turned around. Power evaporates when audience leaves. Lauren stood outside the iron gate with Jada's backpack, torn strap, broken zipper, hanging it high on the fence. No speech. A relic elevated to witness. Someone noticed. She slipped back into the crowd like a rumor with teeth. A student climbed the steps, mic shaking. "This isn't a protest," he said. "It's the day we repossess our memory." The principal ordered doors locked. Classrooms became irrelevant. Curriculum relocated to grass and grief. A boy spotted Moreau skulking toward a side gate, hoodie down. "You're not a man," he shouted. "Just a big body with no soul." No chant followed. Silence finished the sentence. Moreau left without authority to breathe through. A letter waited in the community mailbox. "We are behind you now. No signature." She pocketed it and wrote on the front window's whiteboard, "I'm not your leader. I'm the shadow behind my children." Then disappeared again. Lorraine, Lauren in some mouths now, still didn't cry, but a thin envelope arrived. No return label. Inside, the complete, unredacted 2009 arrest file. Chain of custody intact. Badge number legible. Handwriting unmistakable. Someone inside believed truth needed oxygen. At the bottom, stamped, Sergeant Donald Moreau, praised retiree, father of Niles. Not chance, blueprint. She traced a straighter line than any policy manual dared draw. Doctrine learned at home becomes doctrine taught at work. The deeper she dug, the cleaner the pattern. Donald once led Region 3's Disturbance Response Unit, designed to preempt community tensions. Practice meant disciplining adolescents labeled hostile before harm existed. Profiling packaged as prophylaxis. In a 2017 training video broken loose from a dead city site, Donald faced a whiteboard, re-education through control. His voice unshaken, "Teach them young. One hit lasts years." She closed the laptop, reopened it. 2 images waited. 2023, Niles mid-swing, baton carving air toward Jada. 2009, Donald's right arm raised over Lauren. Freeze frames overlaid, identical silhouettes. Not inspiration, instruction. Violence rendered hereditary, ring flashing like a family crest. On an old Facebook page, a photo, Scott in the original tale, here Niles, aged 7, gripping a toy baton, grin wide. Donald's caption, "Following in the footsteps." Kids got the grip. She printed it. Paper keeps secrets honest. In the promotion memo already leaked, candidate N. Moreau elevated under legacy consideration. Consistent disciplinary instincts. Legacy, how institutions anoint lineage as merit. Halpert once called Donald mentor in a forum post he later deleted. A 1998 training photo placed them side by side. Donald's hand on Halpert's shoulder. Below the post's ghost. Sarge says don't go soft because they cry. We're here to win, not mother civilians. She saved the file 3 times. 2 photos on a table. Donald above Lauren, Niles above Jada. Same stance, same ring, same arc. She slid them into a folder labeled, "When justice isn't inherited, evil fills the will." Then she mailed 6 identical packets. Silence fractured. The Civil Oversight Commission called an emergency session. Official lines measured surprise in bureaucratic centimeters. New evidence warrants urgent review of cases involving Officer Niles Moreau and Principal David Halpert. Suspensions followed like reluctant apologies. She didn't read headlines. She hung a corkboard with one label. They forgot too fast. Center pinned, the cover sheet of a 312-page dossier. The timeline of erasure. No preface. Just numbers, names, dates. The spine of rot. 73 incidents. 71 targeted students of color. 36 unlogged force events. 17 camera failures. 3 dead children. 1 system that kept pledging, "We followed procedure." Procedure had become choreography for denial. Moreau declined questioning, citing mental distress from a hostile environment fueled by misinformation. The words sweated cowardice. She answered with a black box delivered to the commission. Photos, transcripts, a folder. Jada Morgan, 7:20 a.m., March 3rd. Red marker across the lid. We refuse to apologize for remembering clearly. Inside, stills, no gore, only timestamps, angles, baton shadows, Halpert's smirk while a girl curled on tile. Memory turned clinical, therefore undeniable. The commission hid the upload behind a portal, but leaks move like water downhill. A junior staffer sent the dossier to the National School Equity Forum. By evening, erased by policy trended. Numbers can trend, patterns indict. An appendix calculated the harm plainly. Over 70% of forceful removals against Black or Latino students. Halpert finally surfaced. Dangerous to let sentiment override systems. We followed regulations. Next morning, someone taped a page to his fence. A circle in red around her line. Memory isn't subject to regulation. Beside it, a student's sign. The cameras stopped. We didn't. In a separate statement, Moreau's attorney hissed about kangaroo courts and hashtags. She didn't answer with adjectives. She mailed laminated hospital intake lines instead. Laceration above temple, jaw contusion, wrist abrasions. A sticky note in clean print. Not hysteria, anatomy. The body submits exhibits better than lawyers. She walked once more through the school, tacking a headline, "School Violence Under Scrutiny," onto the staff board. Beneath she wrote, "Too late to ask what happened. You watched." Truth became a hallway installation nobody could unsee. A spokesperson misfired during a curbside interview. "They think we'll kneel." The public clarified in comments, "We don't want apologies. We want your doctrine disarmed." Lauren scanned her notebooks into a triple backup archive. Trust memory, not platforms. A local columnist tried framing her as vengeful. She emailed a single picture. Jada at 6, grin gummy, sign in crayon. "My mom isn't wrong. She's early." The columnist shelved the piece. Sometimes kindness edits harder than rage. A package reached the precinct reception. No return address. Inside, a flash drive and a folded photo. Donald dragging younger Lauren, hair hiding her face. File name, inheritance. Roots don't lie. They spread. Asked what she expected, she finally spoke. "I don't need apologies. I need them to recognize what they passed down." No podium rhythm. Just sentence as scalpel. Institutions bled around the incision. Agencies hesitated. She filed 5 complaints simultaneously: education, internal police review, civil rights oversight, ethics, school accountability. Each packet tailored: timestamps, audio, redacted emails, policy memos, annotated in red. She didn't aim at the head. She broke the spine. Within 72 hours, 3 resignations. Assistant superintendent who advanced Halpert despite warnings. A police school liaison who saved costs by killing hall cameras. A deputy chief who bottled complaints until they spoiled. All cited personal reasons. Timing confessed for them. A network Chiron called her. The mother who toppled 3 agencies with memory. She ignored the spotlight, sharpened the index of her archive. Attention is a flare. Evidence is a lighthouse. Moreau phoned again. Rattled instead of rabid. You've got no badge, no seat, no right. She let the silence weigh him down. I don't need a right, she said. I have a reason. The recording never aired. A fax arrived, letterhead forged, blunt threat of litigation for defamation. She posted it labeled, Threat Level Comedy. Students made pins. Ridicule did what policy never does. Undressed the bluff down to its underwire. Halpert's mask cracked next. A student journalist unearthed a half-wiped server drive, altered records, misdated referrals, a fabricated discipline entry verified by signature, paper lied, metadata remembered. She slotted it into the archive's spine. She met a civil litigator not for damages but leverage, a motion-compelling recovery of deleted surveillance data. The petition read like excavation orders: exhume what bureaucracy buried under convenience, not time. Preservation granted. Forensic teams sealed Roosevelt's admin building. Lauren watched from across the street, arms folded. She took one photo, evidence collecting evidence. The times ran. She walked in alone. The walls are falling now. Internal Affairs launched a retroactive audit. 6 years of misconduct claims reopened. Off-record interviews multiplied. Lauren skipped them, leaving a binder instead. Suggested questions. She never scripted truth. She choreographed recollection. The third agency apologized publicly. She didn't attend. At her table, she updated her index. Front page line: they used policy to erase children. I used memory to resurrect them. Awards invitations stacked like junk mail. Reporters begged. She answered once. The goal isn't to be seen. The goal is to make them see. She stuck the sentence to her screen with a yellow note, then went back to dating, sorting, labeling. Court day arrived colder than breath. Lauren sat straight-spined, hands clasped, no visible notes. The gallery brimmed. Students, teachers, off-duty cops, spectators hungry for exposure over verdict. In walked Niles, suit over posture like paint on rust. He took the stand without counsel. I didn't hit her because she's black, he said. I hit her because she looked at me like her mother. Gasps didn't echo. They condensed into something heavier than sound. Lauren stood, not to object, to calibrate. Repeat that to my daughter when she wakes. He didn't flinch. A junior prosecutor asked gently, What did you see when you struck? Something that needed extinguishing, he answered, mouth tasting the word. The screen flickered. Grainy footage unrolled. 3 strikes. 3 syllables mouthed, You're like her. Lauren watched him, not the video. I didn't birth a replica, she said. I birthed a mirror you fear. The judge let silence testify. A child in the gallery, 12 maybe, walked forward, toy baton in both hands. Want to hit me too? He asked. The room froze into clarity. Moreau stared at judge, at doors, at nowhere, like exits were ashamed of him. A lawyer leaned toward the police chief. Were you aware Officer Moreau's father detained the victim's mother under similar circumstances? Lips tightened. Not part of this case, the chief said. Oh, but it is, Lauren replied, voice like frost. Cameras caught Niles breaking script. If I could go back, I'd do it again. Lauren didn't blink. Then I'll go back too, she said. This time I won't be in cuffs. 5 seconds became a billboard. Outside, no chanting, just shoulder-to-shoulder bodies, signs of snapped batons painted black. No verdict delivered. The world refused to wait on the court's calendar. Her porch chalked itself overnight with messages she stepped around like wildflowers. She wrote one line in her journal: "Cowards bring weapons to fight memory. That's how they lose. Cowards fall fast. Accomplices rot slowly." The machine began eating itself, quiet, clumsy, inevitable as mold. Halpert sat under fluorescent truth before the same board that once praised him. No comment became his only grammar. Lauren didn't attend. She mailed 4 faculty complaints instead. 8 years, whispers trapped in desk drawers, finally aired. One letter begged, "If you won't fire him, keep him from freshmen." Another, from a white student, arrived folded. He said, "Those kids are good at getting hurt. Make it look worse." Page 48 earned a title, Echoes of Intent. A board HR official cried publicly, "We didn't do enough." Lauren offered no reply. Someone photographed a note pinned to her hall. "I don't want your apology. I want you unbadged within yourself." Consequence threaded sideways. 3 columnists who'd called her hysterical found doors closed. No briefings, no quotes. Students canceled interviews. "No one will talk to me," one tweeted. "Now you know earned silence," a reply read. Education continued. The oversight team imaged Langston's servers. Deletion logs told on themselves. Scrubbed emails, massaged metadata, backups mysteriously corrupted. But nothing truly disappears. Threads reassembled. Target demographics, dead zones, repeat disruptions, strategy masquerading as safety. A near-retirement officer mailed her a plain paragraph. "I stood by more times than I can count. We told ourselves order mattered most. It was easier than admitting we were afraid of our supervisors." She filed it under Marrow. Networks tried renaming her again, the mother who knew where bones lay. A young reporter asked, "Victorious?" "Exposure, not victory," she answered. "They wore the law like armor. I walked through it like smoke." Simpler than slogans, harder than hashtags. Internal Affairs widened its audit. 12 staff gave off-the-record statements. She didn't attend, just left a binder. Names, dates, floor plans, camera angles. She didn't script their memories, she jogged them. By apology number 3, she'd already moved on. Her index grew chapters: policy as disguise, silence as currency, cameras as collaborators. The front page sentence stayed: "We resurrect children policy buried." The city learned to reread itself. Court resumed. Niles arrived smaller, suit looser. The prosecutor traced chain of custody across years, back through Donald's unit, forward into school hallways. "Legacy consideration," she read. "Disciplinary instincts." Merit minted from inheritance. Violence turned resume bullet. Lauren didn't look at him. She looked at the jurors' hands, pens slowing whenever the word procedure appeared. Habit had a sound when it broke. It was the absence of scribbling. She knew the noise by now. The judge recessed. Outside, the air felt rinsed. Students hosted a teach-in under courthouse trees. Policy Literacy 101. A sophomore explained chain of command like a flowchart of complicity. Teachers took notes. Grown-ups learning remedial courage. Reporters chased reaction quotes. Lauren declined. Instead, she slid a thumb drive to a public defender. A training deck from Donald's archive. Slides on pain compliance and optics management. Branding cruelty. as communication strategy. A union rep stepped to microphones, hedging. We denounce misconduct, defend due process. A student lifted a sign behind him. We are due process. The camera framed both truths, then the more honest one swallowed the shot. Back inside, the judge allowed the hallway clip over defense sputters. The room didn't watch violence. It watched choreography, authority looping its learned motions, each frame a flashcard from father to son. When it ended, Lauren asked the quiet to do its work. It did. The oxygen felt heavier, as if the room's lungs had borrowed Jada's machines for a second, learning that breathing without denial takes effort. A juror asked for transcript excerpts. The clerk read, "Subject resisted through vocal protest." The juror's brow furrowed like a hinge finally oiled. Language had been an accomplice. Today it testified against its old friends. Later, a young bailiff whispered, "My brother was that age." She nodded. Not "thank you." Not "I'm sorry." The exchange required no slogans. Grief and clarity shook hands and walked separate directions, both with purpose. A defense consultant leaked to press. Public mood is hostile, as though moods batter skulls. Students replied with a mural, a broken baton sprouting flowers. Not forgiveness, growth that refuses to take orders from fear. Court adjourned without verdict again. Outside, sidewalks filled with wordless people carrying signs with only timestamps. 10:17, 3:13, 3:30, 7:20 a.m. Timelines became slogans shaped like clocks. Truth measured itself in minutes, not adjectives. That night, Lauren's porch lights were off. She scanned notebooks, duplicating drives, labeling folders with verbs, cut, dragged, stalled, lied. Platforms crash. Paper remembers. She filed a new divider labeled, "Aftermath is administration." A local anchor softened tone mid-broadcast. "This isn't anti-police," she said. "It's anti-inheritance of harm." The newsroom received a flood of emails. Nuance draws fewer clicks. Truth draws longer attention. They pivoted. She mailed a package to the academy where Donald once lectured. 2 photos, 2 dates, 1 sentence. "Curriculum has consequences." The box came back refused. She mailed 6 more. Refusal documented as still testimony. The oversight portal finally published redacted findings. Buried paragraph. Legacy pathways influenced promotions. Students circled it, posting, "Say inheritance out loud." Bureaucracies fear verbs. Kids pronounce them. A council member proposed cameras in all halls. Students pasted Lauren's line on city windows. Cameras didn't fail. People did. Install courage. Budget honesty. Hardware won't fix doctrine. Memory already knows the angle. A retired captain sent a letter. "We were taught outcomes matter less than intent. We armored ourselves in that." She replied with a single photocopy of Jada's intake. Outcomes circled. Intent makes alibis. Outcomes make graves. Reporters asked for final comments. "None," she said. "I'm busy." She taped a list to her fridge. Archive, deliver, teach, sleep, repeat. Revolutions sometimes look like chores stacked into steadiness. Langston's driveway filled with chalk again. No names, just, "She spoke for all of us." He showed themselves. 1 baton. 3 strikes. Infinite echoes. She stepped around each sentence, refusing to smudge other people's truth. The raid on Langston High's servers yielded threads about target profiles, optics risk, camera gaps. Nothing is ever truly gone. Deleted is a synonym for postponed. Lauren filed the new evidence behind a tab named "Roots Showing." A final note arrived. Anonymous paragraph from a tired officer. "We kept order by outsourcing conscience." She added it to the archive, then closed the binder. Not an ending, a hinge. Memory wasn't finished. It had simply changed rooms. "I trained under Dean Kincaid," the letter read. He showed me how to hit without consequence. I'm ashamed I listened. Liora slid it between manuals on baton tactics and trauma triage, labeling the section. Regret doesn't unfreeze. Weeks later, in a closed staff meeting, a tenured white teacher cleared his throat. I laughed back in 2009, thought it was exaggeration. Now I don't sleep. Heads dropped. No applause. From the back, Liora murmured, "Sleep. I haven't chosen to wake you yet." The line hit harder than any gavel. Meetings at Ridgeline began with silence, less ritual than residue. Posters shifted from slogans to timelines. Student art hung by year, always one unexplained piece: a silhouette, a baton, an overturned chair. Pierce's office stayed locked. Dust thickened behind frosted glass. No replacement announced. For the first time, school ran without a principal. Leadership felt combustible. Outside, Leora's face appeared sketched and stenciled, not as martyr, but ledger. In every image, she didn't smile. Endurance replaced triumph. "Do you feel vindicated?" people asked. Her answer never changed. "Ask them, I'm not the one who shifted." Dust hadn't settled in Pierce's empty office when Liora moved again, this time with steel, circuits, and a blueprint of the longest hallway. Before sunrise, she arrived with 2 volunteers and an electrician. By noon, a 12-foot digital display was bolted under shatterproof glass. Names pulsed. Student. Age, date of detainment. No adjectives, no verdicts. At center, Janelle. Caption: she studied here. She bled here. The hall never went silent again. Kids gathered in clusters or alone, fingers trembling over names they hadn't dared say aloud. A freshman whispered, "I didn't know they kept records." Another answered, "They kept what mattered to them." A Tribune line ignited the country. She didn't build a memorial. She built a report card of violence. Social feeds rechristened the corridor the Hall of Justice. Asked what it meant, Liora said, "I didn't carve my daughter into stone. I slapped her truth on a face." A former student tackled years earlier returned, wordless, standing beneath his name. A teacher stopped and whispered, "Welcome back." Then came parents, taping plain white pages beneath the screen. Each read the same hand-scrawled phrase, "Me too." The wall rippled white with memory. 3 days later, an officer arrived with orders to remove the display as unauthorized. Students locked arms at the entrance. No chants, no shoves. Liora stepped forward, voice patient as erosion. Then erased the town's memory. "This isn't a wall anymore, it's a mirror. If you want it down," she added, "you'll have to take them down with it." He hesitated, turned, and left. The order quietly died. By morning, her sentence covered newspapers, sidewalks, courthouse fencing, bus wraps. Dismantle the wall, dismantle the memory first. It became the slogan of the state's largest youth-led campaign. Marches started with names, not chants. Gatherings weren't protests. They were documentation. Liora never took the stage. She walked through and students parted, not out of fear, out of acknowledgement. At a forum, the interim superintendent asked, "How do we restore trust?" A girl in back, "Start by reading the wall, then ask who put the names there." Liora stayed outside, wrote a yellow note, taped it to the superintendent's door, and left. The note: "Trust isn't built by mopping blood. It's built by admitting where it came from." Inside, the HVAC droned. No one spoke. That's how truth settles in systems built on dust. It doesn't shout, it lays bricks. Liora turned memory into motion. No press conference, no cameras, just filings. 12 names bound into a civil complaint before the state's high court, Mercer vs. Kincaid et al. No damages requested. One demand: mandatory public testimony. Read aloud, every word. The union's attorneys moved to dismiss procedure, media contamination, emotional manipulation. The judge glanced at footage already in record and denied the motion within 5 minutes. Openings began not with a voice, but with 5 soundless seconds. Janelle falling, 3 baton blows, a body folding like paper in wind. Liora stepped to the stand with a battered notebook, not a script. "I swear," she said, "not on legal truth, but lived truth. I swear on memory." No gasps, only oxygen thickening. She read, February 17th, 2009. Dragged from Ridgeline's restroom by Officer Dean Kincaid. Baton before voice. "You fit a pattern," he said. The bruise lasted 3 weeks. My daughter saw. She was 7. Each line hammered brittle doctrine. A courtroom artist admitted later she didn't draw. She watched. Liora's attorney introduced an anonymous affidavit. Rex Kincaid once said, "My father beat fear into them. I'm just keeping it in their bloodline." Silence held for 30 seconds. Then the lights dimmed. A reconstructed homeroom appeared as court exhibit. Students reenacted from witnesses' notes. Hallway demand, hoodie order, refusal, force. Air grew leaden. The judge removed his glasses. Liora rose again. "I promised I'd never re-enter that room. This time I speak inside it." She turned another page. "Kincaid told me, your people raise girls to mouth off." I didn't answer then. She held the notebook outward. Block letters stared. She mouthed off because I taught her to speak. This wasn't debate. It was surrender. Timestamps stood. Reconstructed scenes held. Audio logs refused erasure. The defense sat pinned by gravity, suits turning to paper. "Anything further?" the judge asked. Liora laid down the notebook. "No, it's all been said. Unheard, not unsaid." 10 seconds ticked. Not for drama, for reluctance to breathe first. A journalist typed. Another cried. The machine didn't collapse. It paused, recalibrated, looked away. Too late. The city had seen Janelle fall and heard a mother's unraised voice echo. The first thing to land wasn't a verdict, it was a badge. Rex Kincaid. Discharged without pension, severance, or commendation. Permanent disqualification from sworn work. The plainest sentence cut deepest, no longer a representative of this department. He called his father. Voicemail. Again, nothing. Silence heavier than courthouse stairs. Dean didn't stay quiet, though. He appeared on State News Channel 3. Suit pressed, tone clipped, blade-sharp words. "He's not me. I knew when to keep my hand down." "He didn't know when to take his off the baton," Dean continued. "People ask if I trained him. I warned him. He inherited violence, not restraint." It wasn't disowning. It was dismantling. Liora released no statement. She didn't need to. Next morning, a box appeared. No return address. Inside, a badge, snapped clean. A sticky note. "You held the line. Hold this." DK Liora turned the metal in her palm. "I don't keep relics," she whispered. "I raise reminders." Under gray skies, she entered the Hall of Justice, mounted the broken badge beneath Janelle's photo, etched a plate, the broken badge corner. No guards challenged, no student interfered. The act required no permission, only precedent. 2 towns over, Rex tried shopping incognito. Students spotted him near frozen foods. No one spoke his name. They simply stepped back. Refusal, not fear. Applications he filed across counties went unanswered. HR officers recognized the voice, the line, the posture. Finally, Dean called. Rex answered fast. "I lost retirement shielding you," Dean rasped. "I'd do it again. Now they know what we were." He hung up. At Ridgeline, parents slowed by the badge. A mother touched her kid's shoulder. Power without truth rusts. Liora didn't return that week. She didn't need to. The badge oxidized in public, metal surrendering to air like an admission. Kids stopped, stared, learned how reminders look when they refuse polish. An embossed invitation arrived. Mrs. Liora Mercer, civil rights honoree. She folded it into a drawer beside kindergarten drawings. The civic center filled, cameras adjusted for gravity, not glamour. She wore her ordinary coat, the same from the morning she mounted the wall. Introduced, she waited for quiet. "I'm not a good person," she began. Gasps stalled. "I didn't get brave. Silence almost killed my daughter. Speaking wasn't courage. It was correction." She scanned the room. "Don't make me your hero. Make me your consequence." The room stood like weather rolling in. She didn't bow, didn't blink, just walked out. Backstage, a teenager whispered, "I want to be you." Liora touched her shoulder. "Don't. Walk farther. I've been where you're headed." Murals bloomed. A statue proposal trended. "No pedestals while I'm breathing," she told a reporter. "They're easy to topple." A national group asked her to run for office. She handwritten the reply, "I'm not here to win chairs. I'm here to flip tables." The award check sat 48 hours. She signed it to the Justice Fund, free counsel, and appeals for kids erased by protocol, named for Janelle. Memo line, not a gift, a refund. Then a letter to regional headquarters, methodical, not accusatory. "Not all of you are wrong," she wrote, "but all of you are quiet. Between a child and a baton, silence isn't neutral, it's permission." She signed it, kept no copy. Months later, a panel replayed her line. Chopped, memed, misunderstood. "I don't need to be your hero," the clip ended. "I need my daughter never taught to kneel." Liora wasn't there. She'd already left the city. Echoes weren't her work. Outside, rain-stitched windows like withheld sentences learning to speak. Two reporters idled in borrowed plates. Liora never left her desk. New footage surfaced. Another campus, another hallway, another kid fixed to tile under fluorescent shame. This one didn't get back up. Liora's grip tightened, not in surprise, in recognition. A council member quoted Liora without attribution, finishing with, "We must find balance." The internet parodied it over cracked desks and templated condolences. A comment pinned beneath, "Balance is just the name they give the weight on your chest." 78 days after the assault, Sergeant Ray Kincaid filed defamation, claimed backlash wrecked his career. Janelle's words, weaponized emotion. Liora's speeches poisoned the well. On a podcast, he smirked. "They ruined a man's life over a bad day." Students answered with shirts. A bad day shouldn't end a life. Mrs. Everson supported them and was dismissed for fostering division. On her board, she chalked, "If you fear thinking students, wrong profession." Liora never appeared in hearings. The letter leaked anyway. A week-long argument erupted. She's criminalizing inaction versus she's demanding humanity. The original letter projected on a campus wall, read aloud in 17 languages. The hard-hitting moment came from a hallway whisper, not a stage. During a civil case brought by Janelle's classmate, a district employee testified off record, eyes down. "We all knew. We waited for someone else to say it first." A cafe mural soon read, "We all knew. We just waited." Liora stayed distant, declined interviews, refused awards. An organizer flew in to hand-deliver a plaque, waited 4 hours on the porch, finally slid it between doors. 2 days later, Liora left town quietly, journals stacked, burner phone under the pillow. Janelle found it later, clean, empty, a note beneath the battery. "Don't archive pain. Transform it." The panel replayed Liora's final line again. Rooms hushed. Some nodded. Some wept. Liora wasn't there. She didn't need the echo. The echo embedded. It lived in morning announcements pausing before her name. On the 53rd sunrise since the hearing, room 407 hummed reverently. Janelle's eyes opened. No spectacle, just presence. The shadow across her ceiling was broad-shouldered. Still, her mother. Liora didn't sob. She placed a hand on Janelle's and let the quiet work. Outside, elsewhere, stillness confronted people. A prosecutor's dropped briefcase, a barber's mirror replaying body cam excuses, a principal reading apologies to students wearing earbuds tuned to Janelle's last voicemail. Across town, a mural showed a hallway filled only with shadows. Above it, some ghosts walk upright. Tourists posed. A former board member visited at night. Someone whispered, not unkindly, "Still running from your vote?" The mural outlived his reputation. In room 407, Janelle's fingers curled, the monitor's tone shifting like recognition. Outside, a donated bench carried words people wrongly credited to Liora. Justice isn't a gavel, it's who still stands after shouting. Protesters touched it like checking for warmth. A court reporter confessed on midnight radio she'd been told to omit part of Liora's testimony. By Monday, classrooms replayed the clip. Liora didn't comment. Janelle's grip tightened. The hospital never marked the moment she returned. No bells, only purpose breathing. "Have you been waiting long?" Janelle whispered. Liora's reply had no tremor. "I didn't wait. I went first. Catch up." Phones buzzed in the hall. No one entered. Janelle hadn't come back from death. She'd come back from erasure. 3 days later, the gurney rolled into a corridor lined with students, still as pillars. No clapping, no chant. Wheels whispered on linoleum. On her hoodie, Silver Stitch read, "Not just my mother's child. I'm her echo." A teacher breathed, unaware she'd spoken. She wasn't saved. She was summoned. Weeks earlier, that same teacher had signed for Janelle's suspension over a headscarf during the flag salute. No hands rose in Janelle's defense. Liora's photo down the west hallway vanished. In its place, a crooked vinyl banner, "No one stands above the collective." An anonymous post pinned for days. "She resists because she has connections." A humiliation assembly forced Janelle to apologize for disrupting unity. She bowed her head, then raised it into oxygenless quiet. Teachers who mocked Liora as polite radical looked at each other and looked away. Janelle didn't disappear from the building. She disappeared from attention. Assignments turned in, her name unspoken. She became a moving omission until the day she collapsed. It happened in civics, mid-sentence, after a board member's son tore up her handwritten letter and called her a soggy relic. A classmate posted poetry from the protest princess, 11 minutes online, 6,000 shares. Then deletion. Chalk dust hung like an unfinished eulogy. Coma rumors shook Ridgeline, less grief than fear. Headlines, lawsuits, proximity to blame. The third night, a soft bell sounded, not from machines, from fingers on Janelle's heart. Eyes opened, she stared like someone summoned, not awakened. Administrators stayed away. A nurse placed a canvas chair by the western window, the line of sight where Liora's last speech had been cut off. Janelle asked for her hoodie. No questions. She stitched silver into worn fabric for hours, slow, deliberate, as if tracing a timeline. That night, suspended students brought no flowers, only presents behind glass, palms to chests, waiting like someone might knock back. No apologies offered. None requested. When the gurney moved days later, the overhead flickered once, then held. Gravity did the rest. Press begged for exclusives. Janelle declined. One circle of 10 peers in the library, no cameras. "What would you say to the officer if he were here?" "Nothing," she answered. "He's not on the floor I stand on." "That's the quote," someone whispered. 78 days since the assault. Not an incident, not emotionally charged. Medical reports used no euphemism. District statements did. A routine safety protocol escalated emotionally. Parent groups printed the phrase on mugs funding more guards. Ray Kincaid kept pay on desk duty, reportedly joking about the girl who played dead. His lawyer called it contextless humor. That made national news. Her rib contusions did not. A janitor leaked grainy footage. Left hand twitch, whispered line. Next time, kneel sooner. Audio gone. Lip readers filled blanks. The janitor was fired for data security. Hashtags sprouted and withered. Students staged a silent sit-in with books, not signs. A teacher, disciplined for abandoning class, sat beside his students, who'd already arrived. Anonymous flyers, Janelle's face photoshopped over slogans, taped to the staff microwave for 3 days. The district urged affirming discussions, then blocked Janelle from speaking in class to avoid reigniting tensions. Ray shopped in a Blue Lives Built This tee. A teen filming him lost his phone. Janelle slipped through side entrances. Substitutes whispered her name. When the fire alarm blared, she stayed still. "This isn't a drill," a teacher said. "Neither was that day," Janelle answered. The teacher flinched, reassigned by week's end. The student-run roundtable kept cameras out. Eli moderated with rounded corner cards. After Janelle's nothing answer, kids organized a memorial without board approval. They called it the Day of Silent Uprising, every class opening with 1 minute of quiet. Chalkboards carried. Some voices shake walls, even whispering. Liora stayed home, reread an unsent letter. "I never wanted you hardened, only allowed soft." That night, mother and daughter sat under distance thick sky. "Did I scare you?" "No." Standing still can be movement. 3 days before, the assistant principal posted, "Unauthorized gatherings face review." Same official who once forced Janelle to rewrite history for citing her mother. She ran a resilience seminar during Janelle's hospitalization without mentioning Janelle once. Students stitched Leora's line, "Justice doesn't require permission," onto a banner. The assistant principal tore it down at dawn, emailing faculty, "Emotional messaging must remain apolitical." Mr. Clyburn left up a poster, "We don't need your permission to matter." He was placed on leave. His windshield smashed. "Go teach silence" sprayed in red. 4 seniors stood guard outside the library that night. No words, 12 candles, for 12 unconscious days. A parent tried to snuff them. Kids kept sitting, shoulder to shoulder. The district safety officer arrived, saw hesitation reflected in a phone camera's lens, and turned away. The 12-second clip, tears glinting on his cheek, became a year's most replayed reel. The enforcer who chose not to break a line. Ray resurfaced, reassigned 4 counties away, filmed at a gun show bragging, "How fast girls go quiet when tile meets skull." Vendors posted the video anonymously. Departments promised seriousness. Nothing followed. Next weekend, booths refused him. One sign read, "No space for men who kneel on girls to stand taller." During the second minute of silence, a freshman confessed, "I saw it. Next time, I won't let it happen." No applause. The quiet after did more than cheering could. That evening, Liora made tea. Porch boards breathed beneath 2 chairs. For once, no choppers, no alerts, no sirens. Just breath and the universe rearranging itself around 2 people who refused to be erased. Janelle rested her head. Liora didn't adjust. "I'm here," her weight said. "I never left." Someone sprayed district stone. She made it harder to look away. Scrubbed by morning, but a photo caught Dawn glancing off the letters. Paper ran it captionless. None needed. Janelle smiled, not because it ended, because it hadn't. The question no one risked aloud. How long does a stain linger where blood gets scrubbed, but reasons remain? Ridgeline gleamed fresh. Paint, lights, progress banners. But silence between lockers stayed heavy, teaching history with its own gravity. Some said Janelle's shadow brushed the stairwell at 8:17. Others felt Liora near the dented gym door, unrepaired, unacknowledged. A plaque tried to cover it, vanished by dawn, shards in recycling. A janitor's post-it replaced it. Some damage isn't meant to hide. Protests reignited where looking away once lived. PTA rooms, staff lounges, student forums. From that quiet storm, 4 stories refused to settle. A retired officer muttering, "We let her rot, barefoot." A rejected transfer essay inked Leora's name in red. A cashier saw Rex, shut her lane. "I won't ring trauma as lunch." An elementary girl sent home for a shirt. "I saw what you did." The principal cited disruption. The viral photo captured stillness, not defiance. Liora stayed silent. Current flowed anyway. Her house remained untouched, mailbox rusted. 8 plain words on white paper didn't fade. People slowed, read twice, moved on. Not reverent, responsible. At a city board mic, a 12-year-old spoke, "We don't want another Janelle. We'll become her if you don't see us." The Jasmine Initiative, reborn as Janelle's, built witness over policy. Vigilance redefined, not surveil. Honor. Teachers kept journals of noticing. One entry, "She almost flinched, then didn't." Morning announcements closed with, "No one goes unseen." "Why start now?" someone asked a founder. "Because at 12, someone let me fall." Motto blunt, eyes open, no blind spots. New cameras watched corners, not kids' faces. Liora wasn't sought. Her name surfaced in murmurs just under polite talk. The custodian taped a card inside his locker. "I don't sweep what matters." Inspections ignored it. A sub used a workbook with Janelle's name as hypothetical. "We don't do hypotheticals with real ghosts," a student said. The workbook died district-wide. In a distant courthouse, Mio, another badge from the old chain, took the stand in an excessive force case. 3 spectators rose and left, one mother among them. No shouting. The judge removed glasses, let silence stretch, then said, "Not with this witness." 17 seconds of interrupted procedure spread noon million views without caption. Elsewhere, a cashier recognized Rex's jawline and shoulder tension. After the last coupon, she said, "Bruises heal faster than names." He left groceries behind. The manager dimmed lights early. A museum opened Whispers in Walls. One wall, matte black, one nail. Visitors stood 60 seconds and listened, to breath or pulse. The curators later admitted, salvaged drywall from Ridgeline's corner. Brass inlay read, "Where silence hit hardest." Liora didn't react, or chose not to. At a distant law school, she slipped into the back row during a lecture on civil immunity. "Guest series?" the professor asked. "Just auditing," she said. Posture said she'd stayed awake longer than most. Near the exit hung a photo. Protesters 5 years earlier, a sign reading "Whispers shouldn't need megaphones." Liora glanced once, softened edges without softening steel. Asked again who she was, she answered the curriculum's missing sentence. Someone who didn't go back to sleep. The phrase surfaced in chalk under District 7 bleachers, "Mother of none." No context. Copied into notebooks, tags, mirrors. Someone keyed it into a teacher's door. She blamed those kids. No investigation. Memory spilled sideways, refusing permission slips. Warehoused protest signs gathered dust. The protests changed shape. Less volume, more repetition. Mercer, retired judge who once tossed Leora's testimony, tried a council run. Activists projected her closing statement on the backdrop. When lights rose, the podium was empty. A principal who suspended Janelle over a missing belt found a chalk outline outside her office. Belts cut from paper labeled "excuses." Parents escorted kids past it quietly. Outline vanished. Its shadow settled in every glance. Kids changed, slow and irreversible. A necklace carved from a lunch tray. Loud. Duct tape across a chest. I won't shrink. A sculpture of broken rulers and binders, things they used to measure me. No detention. A fourth grader's role model. The lady we're told not to name. Lorraine became direction, not person. Doors propped, blinds raised, post-its in counselors' drawers. Check who isn't coming in. Codes, invitations, warnings, hope. One morning, a girl with mismatched socks paused by a blinking camera, hesitated, not from fear, from memories she'd inherited. Tiles still carried scuffs from a day they tried to forget. She didn't smile or wave. She walked. Somewhere under justice unfinished, presence moved, unseen, unmistakable. She's not here anymore. But when a black child lifts a chin unstruck, that's when she returns. And the wall kept breathing, names pulsing, badge rusting, glass reflecting anyone honest enough to look. The city learned an inconvenient grammar. Intent writes alibis, outcomes write history. Memory edits both until truth reads plain. Ridgeline finally began reading aloud. Janelle returned to class through the greenhouse door, shoulders squared, gaze steady. She wasn't louder. She was unmistakable. Teachers paused mid-sentence when she entered, like language itself needed permission. Liora kept walking halls, counting cameras, cataloging exits, practicing listening. A counselor asked if healing felt linear. Janelle shrugged. Stairs, not ramps. She carried a slim notebook labeled Witness to Quiet. Inside, dates, doorways, faces that looked away. Not vengeance, inventory. Liora underlined margins, patterns, not accidents, doctrine, not tempers. At lunch, kids drifted toward the Hall of Justice like tide. Names pulsed, badge deepened to orange. Someone added a line beneath the plaque. Rust is a slow confession. Custodians didn't scrape it. They started leaving microfiber cloths nearby. Pierce's office remained sealed, dust patterned like snowfall behind glass. The district floated 3 interim candidates. The email thread leaked and evaporated in ridicule. Students printed stickers. No principal required for memory. Staff peeled none off. Class still happened. Sharper. A sophomore zine interviewed cafeteria workers about who first saw everything. Answers weren't heroic. I brought ice. I blinked wrong. I took 5 seconds to breathe. The issue sold out. Liora mailed them archival sleeves, labeled Ordinary Courage, filed properly. Dean Kincaid accepted a panel invite 2 counties over. Flyers promised balanced perspectives. Students showed up with notebooks, not megaphones. First question, where did you learn to choose intent over outcome? He swallowed, blinked, picked the wrong silence. Ridgeline's morning announcements added 10 seconds of quiet after attendance. The pause felt structural, like a beam installed overhead. Kids timed it badly at first, then perfectly. Teachers adjusted clocks. No one called it ceremony. They called it repair. A vendor replaced the gun show sign with laminated cardstock. No room for gravity cosplayers. Ray Kincaid stopped appearing on flyers. The booth next door started selling earplugs labeled for officers allergic to teenagers' voices. They sold out instantly, hilariously. City Council proposed more SROs. Students filed into chambers holding pocket calculators. When members said feelings, screens displayed percentages. When order, kids read policy text aloud. Liora sat in back, counting votes with her eyes. Arithmetic favored memory. Janelle visited the museum wall after hours. The guard nodded, turned his clipboard face down. She stood the full minute, hearing her pulse settle into something older. On the brass inlay, she traced each letter, where silence hit hardest. A retired dispatcher returned a box of tapes no one requested. Old training calls, she said, and one I kept. It wasn't dramatic. A sigh, a pause, a door. Liora labeled it, tenderness misfiled, then digitized every second like a prayer. Leora's mailbox collected envelopes she never opened, awards, invitations, warnings. She sorted them by weight, not sender. Heaviest stack, honorary committees. Lightest, legal threats. Midweight, handwritten apologies. She filed those under seedlings, not absolution. In literature, Ms. Harrow assigned elegies, then banned metaphors. Name the body, she said. Name the baton. Essays came back spare, exact. A freshman wrote, I am not your lesson plan. I am your timestamp. The gradebook changed afterward. The safety officer who turned away resigned quietly, then volunteered for the Justice Fund's intake desk. He brought coffee, said names right, learned to wait. Kids trusted him enough to say, I was there. He trusted them enough to answer, I know. Eli's reading group grew into a practice. Questions without spectacle. They met Thursdays under dead fluorescents, lights deliberately off. Everyone introduced themselves with a date instead of a name. Janelle introduced herself with 3. Start, fall, return. A newspaper tried a redemption arc for Ray. Readers replied with receipts, quotes, clips, reassignments. The editorial retracted itself without apology. The correction box read, We mistook a hanging costume for a changed character. We regret the costume. Liora audited another class. Evidence seminar. The professor drew a triangle. Policy, practice, proof. She added a 4th corner from the back. Witness. The triangle became a kite. It flew further on paper than the syllabus admitted. The hall's display added captions, policy citations, complaint numbers, lapses cross-referenced. A visiting superintendent called it propaganda. A 9th grader answered, It's a bibliography with blood. The superintendent left early, shoes squeaking too loudly down tile. A quiet apology note appeared beneath the broken badge. I deleted a file. I'm sorry. L. Liora wrote beneath it, Next time, deliver it. The initial stayed. Someone slipped a flash drive into the donation slot. Ray applied for logistics in another state under an alias. HR found nothing until a trainee recognized the way he laughed when stressed. She sent the clip around. Locks changed by lunch. His new email bounced replies into a permanent nowhere. Dean Kincaid tested a radio show apology. I regret the optics. Calls flooded. First, try again without optics. Second, say what happened. Third, mail your ring to the hall. He hung up by the 4th, blamed interference, stared at his hands. A sophomore painted over the cafeteria clock numbers with small words, breathe, look, name, refuse. No one noticed until time felt different, less blunt, more braided. Custodians left it. Lunch still ends, one said. Might as well end honestly. The district floated healing circles without naming harm. Students declined politely, offering an agenda. Read aloud every internal email with redactions removed. The district suggested cookies. Liora suggested stenographers. One circle happened. Everyone learned to speak in dates. Janelle started tutoring algebra for kids who missed class during sit-ins. Her rule, we solve for X, but we always write what X stands for. Before quizzes, they recited names like formulas. Grades rose. So did attendance. Nobody clapped. A stadium proposed Parent Appreciation Night featuring local officers. Flyers featured helmets, not faces. The event rebranded overnight. Witness Appreciation Night. Parents read policies into microphones. Officers sat on folding chairs and did not leave early. Some took notes. Liora returned to Ridgeline's dented door with a carpenter. They installed a glass window around the crease, not over it. Plaque, do not repair this. A sub tried to cover it with a poster. Students peeled it gently like gauze. A legal clinic published a toolkit titled After the Silence. First page, how to file when the camera failed. Second, how to name the hallway. Third, how to keep your own records. Last, how to leave a door open afterward. The council's budget hearing hit deadlock. A 12-year-old stepped to the mic again. You can't keep paying for our forgetting. No applause, just pencil scraping, then stopping. Someone moved funds. Cameras stayed, but so did librarians. Ray found work loading boxes overnight. A coworker recognized his wrists. You shiver after jokes. He didn't return next shift. Wordless shunning traveled faster than headlines. It wasn't vengeance. It was community immune response. Finally functional, quietly ruthless. A faculty lounge debate ended when the custodian set down a tray and said, I mop without bleaching memory. Faculty nodded. The conversation learned to need him. He learned to interrupt less. Everyone learned to pour coffee slower, listen longer. Liora placed a slim book on the hall's shelf. Index of refusals. Entries: a turn back, a left seat, a closed door reopened, a voicemail kept. Not a manifesto, an address book for accountability. Kids added pages in pencil. Janelle's hoodie's silver thread frayed at the cuff. She restitched it between periods. A classmate asked what the words meant today. Same, she answered. Only heavier in the right places. Better weight distribution. Laughter edged the room, then respect returned. Dean tried church. The sermon quoted prophets about contrition. He sat center aisle, ring cold, hands clasped incorrectly. Afterward, a grandmother approached. Repentance starts with mail. He knew what she meant. Box, hall, plaque. He didn't ask her to explain. Kids crowdsourced a map of dead zones, where cameras blink, where coverage gaps, where supervisors step out. The map's legend was a poem. The superintendent called it inflammatory. The librarian called it nonfiction. They printed laminated copies, color fast. A debate team argued intent versus outcome and lost on purpose. In cross-ex, they read hospital charts. Judges cried, then disqualified them for departure from format. The trophy case gained a handwritten card. We chose the wrong contest deliberately. The Justice Fund hired a statistician who spoke in metaphors only when forced. 71% isn't a feeling, she said. It's a pattern signature. Charts went up beside portraits. Art and math held hands. No one called it interdisciplinary. They called it true. A local brand offered to sponsor the hall's display. Students declined with a form letter. We are not your campaign. Donate receipts, not logos. They sent a check anyway. It cashed. Their name never appeared. Capital learned to whisper. Liora received a postcard from a town she'd never visited. Front, a cracked sidewalk. Back, we stood still and someone moved. K. She filed it under echo mechanics. Later, she wrote 3 words on a sticky note. Keep stillness teachable. A science teacher built a unit on sound. Day 1, decibels. Day 2, reverberation. Day 3, courtroom acoustics. Day 4, minutes of silence measured like waves. Lab report, prompt, describe a silence that changed you. Hypothesis optional. Conclusion mandatory. A memorial proposal for Liora resurfaced. Bronze, heroic pose. Students rejected it again. New proposal. A shadow cut into concrete where afternoon sun falls. No face, only outline. Approval unanimous. The shadow told better truth than any statue could hold. Ray tried apologizing on a podcast hosted in a garage. I had a bad day. The host, a former teacher, replied, You had a training. Dead air stretched. Listeners counted 8 seconds. The clip trended under, Define day, define trained. The district piloted harm acknowledgement lines at assemblies. No names, only roles. Student, officer, witness, admin. Each stepped forward, breathed, stepped back. It wasn't catharsis. It was inventory. Afterward, kids lingered, like they'd finally learned the room's grammar. Janelle sat with first years under the stairs, answering questions nobody dared ask in class. What if my voice shakes? Let it. What if mine doesn't? Make space. They wrote the answers on index cards, tucked behind ID lanyards. Liora mailed the broken badge, a soft cloth every spring with no note. The metal refused gloss. A sophomore added a line beneath the plaque. Maintenance is not forgiveness. It stayed. Custodians dusted around it like gardeners around a stubborn stone. The museum's black wall traveled on loan to neighboring districts. In each town, someone swore they heard breathing. Someone else only heard heartbeat. Both left changed. The curators stamped a passport at the exit. You listened long enough to hear. A principal tried rebranding restorative practices without restoring anything. Kids brought clipboards, asked, "What's restored?" He said community. They said cameras. He said trust. They said names. He said time. They pointed at the dented door's glass. Meeting adjourned itself. Morning again. Janelle paused beneath the camera, tied her shoe, lifted her chin, and walked. The hall pulsed. The badge rusted. The city breathed on purpose. Leora's shadow wasn't there, and was everywhere. Somewhere, a child learned stillness that didn't kneel. Lesson 1. The weight of memory and the cost of silence. For those of us who've lived long enough to see decades unfold, wars, marches, elections, and reckonings, we know that silence can be heavier than any weapon. In the story of Liora and her daughter Janelle, the silence wasn't just personal, it was systemic. A baton strike, a body on tile, and a mother who refused to bow became symbols of America's oldest struggle: who gets to be heard and who gets erased. Many of you remember when talking back could cost a person their job or their life. You remember seeing footage of peaceful marchers clubbed on bridges, of mothers screaming for their children while the law stood indifferent. Liora carried that same wound into a new century, one where cameras blinked red but somehow never recorded. The police called it procedure, the district called it containment, but those of us with gray in our hair know what those words really mean. Excuses wrapped in bureaucracy. What Liora did, walking back into that school, building a wall of names, refusing to let her daughter's memory fade, wasn't revenge. It was remembrance with teeth. She stood for every parent who ever whispered, "If I stay quiet, maybe they'll stop." But silence doesn't stop injustice. It fertilizes it. Lesson 2. Legacy isn't just bloodline. It's behavior. Older Americans know something about inheritance. We pass down more than money. We pass down habits, lessons, and sometimes the things we should have unlearned long ago. In this story, violence itself was inherited. A father trained his son to see control as power, to mistake dominance for duty. That's not new in this country. We've seen police departments, companies, even churches teach the next generation the same cruelty, just under different names. But Liora rewrote that legacy. Her daughter Janelle came back, not just from a coma, but from invisibility. When she spoke, she didn't shout. She measured her words like her mother did, each one deliberate, undeniable. Together, they broke the cycle of silence that kept so many of us polite when we should have been loud. If you're 65 or 75, you've seen families repeat mistakes across decades. Sons carrying their father's grudges, daughters swallowing their mother's fears. Leora's fight teaches that legacies can be rewritten. The same hands that once scrubbed courthouse floors use those hands to document truth, build evidence, and tear down an empire of excuses. Change didn't come from speeches. It came from persistence. One paper, one truth, one scar at a time. Lesson 3. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. When we're older, we start hearing that word healing tossed around like it's a finish line. But anyone who's lived long enough knows healing isn't about pretending pain never happened. It's about learning how to carry it without letting it poison you. Liora didn't forgive the men who hurt her or her child. She didn't pretend to. What she did was build something out of the wreckage, a hall of justice, a breathing memorial that forced a whole city to look in the mirror. That's healing the hard way, the honest way. And Janelle, that brave girl who walked again through the same halls that tried to erase her, showed the younger generation that survival is its own kind of protest. She said, "I'm not just my mother's child, I'm her echo." That line should sit with all of us, especially those who've buried friends, watched rights won and lost, or seen history try to repeat itself. The truth is, America's promise only survives if ordinary people, especially elders who've seen how fragile freedom really is, keep watch. Healing means remembering so precisely that forgetting becomes impossible. It means standing in your doorway, looking at the world that still limps toward justice and whispering, "Not yet, but we're closer." Conclusion: what we leave behind. For those of you reading this with silver hair and steady hearts, the message is clear. Legacy isn't the medals we collect, it's the courage we pass forward. Liora and Janelle didn't build monuments of stone. They built habits of truth. They made memory a form of resistance. And that, perhaps, is the most American act of all. Friends, after walking through Liora and Janelle's journey, after feeling the sting of silence, the inheritance of violence, and the slow birth of justice, I want to hear from you. Do you believe a single voice can still move a system built to stay quiet? Have you ever witnessed someone turn pain into purpose like Liora did? Share your reflections in the comments below. Let's talk about the legacies we are leaving. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel, because remembering together is how we make sure the next chapter is written differently.